Hi guys, welcome to my channel, The TikTok of It All, where I review videos that I've seen on TikTok. Some will be juicy and spicy, or some will just be jaw-dropping. In this video, I'm reviewing family secrets. So like, comment, share, subscribe, and let me know what you think. I'll be back with some more commentary.
Friend, we got a whole baby.
No.
We got a. This your son, Dad?
Yeah,
that's my dad. This your brother. This is your brother.
I'm gonna need you to step
This is your brother. No, why she gotta step outside?
Because we need to talk.
No, what we need to talk for?
No,
because
she and I need to
you
talk.
first of all.
No, first of all.
My father had a child with my sister as well. Actually, he had 2 children with my sister. I saw that story recently. This woman, she's gone viral because she told this story about her family. And I'm like, oh, you guys are into that kind of stuff? Okay, I'll bite. Here we go. I'll tell you my story. So my mother had already been married and had 3 children by the time she met my father. So she married my father and had 3 more children. So she ended up with 6 total children. The older ones are my half siblings. So the story goes that my father started messing around with my mother's older daughters. Of those 3 children she had already had when she met my father, 2 of them were girls. And at around the age 12 and 14, these 2 daughters apparently went to my mother and told my mother, hey, your man is touching on us. And my mother went to my father and confronted him. According to her, I wasn't there. I wasn't even born until the oldest one was 16 years old. But this is the story, that my mother went to my father and said, are you doing this? And he said, do you have a demon? Are you demon possessed? That must be a demon telling you these things. No, you crazy, dirty, demon possessed witch. I would never, ever do that. Ew. Then he proceeded to beat the shit out of her, according to her. Then, according to her, the sisters came back to her and recanted their story and said, no, it wasn't really happening. So according to my mother, that was supposedly supposed to be the end of it. But the 12-year-old, the one who was 12 at the time, because she realized she was not going to get protection from my mother, she actually climbed out the window that night and ran away. And she never, ever, ever came back home. She never once lived with my mother again from the age of 12. Now, this particular sibling, she had a very, very, very hard life. She has since passed away, but she had to live on the street as a child and make the money the way that women on the street make money. So she did not fare well from this at all. The older sibling, though, a strange thing occurred as my father, over the years, has groomed and violated, no doubt, my oldest sibling. Somehow a relationship, if you could call it that. I don't know. I don't like that word related to this, but they began to be together in some way. So I'm in the home. I'm the youngest of these 6 siblings, and I'm very confused because my father and my older sister are often together, even being affectionate towards each other, and my father and my mother. It's really confusing. So my father basically has like 2 women who have wifely duties in the house, my oldest sibling and my mother. And then my sister became pregnant. She is age 18 at this time when she becomes pregnant with my father's child. Eventually, they do bring the child home, and now I am very confused because they didn't hide it from me. They didn't hide it from me who the father was. So they hid it from the community, but they didn't hide it from me. They told the community it was some Marine that came into town and then left. So now I talk about being confused. I'm a little confused. Well, meanwhile, my father was very abusive. He was a very, very abusive man. He was also low-level 3-letter agency, running cover operations as a country musician at the time, which was something they did often. And my mother had apparently tried to leave this marriage several times, but it was the kind of thing where he says, if you leave, I'll find you and kill you. You couldn't really get help from the police or anybody at that time because it's the dirty South. It's the swamps of Louisiana. And women, yeah, you're allowed to beat the shit out of your women and do what you want with your children. To be honest, that was the culture. Like, I'm the man, rawr, I can do whatever I want. So eventually, after my father and my sister had this child, we were able to escape once, and I've told you guys that story, how when we escaped that particular time, my father immediately found us and went and took me away from my mother. So my father and my sister and the baby come and grab me from where we had escaped to, okay? So now I'm gone. Now I'm in this, we had like a motorhome. So now I'm gone. I'm in the motorhome with my father, my sister, and this new baby. And that's when they took me to Arkansas for the things that I've spoken about many other times before, basically the programming center. So anyway, after that, somehow I got returned back to my mother. I have a block in memory, but I'm back now with my mother and my siblings, and that was that. My father was never around again. Why? Because my father and this sibling had gone off and gotten married. So now my father is married to my sister and they have a child. So now they're just a happy family. And my father was 40 years older than this sibling. He was 20 years older than my mother and 40 years older than this sibling. They ended up staying married for 20 years, these two did, and they had another child together. So as it stands today, my father has long passed away. This sibling who had children, I don't know what to call her children. Are they my nieces? Are they my sisters? I don't know. It doesn't really matter because none of that side of the family will speak to me. They hate me. There's something wrong with me. I haven't figured out what that is yet. I don't know. But I'm persona non grata. They will not speak to me. I may as well not have a family. But somewhere out there, I've got nieces, half niece sibling people, and lots of therapy bills to show for it.
Now, I would be
Sharing your
happy as a
anonymous
lark
family
if them people did
secrets.
not talk to me because that
Secret,
is crazy.
my child has been accused of over a dozen essay-related offenses, events, I don't know the wording, prior to the age of 18. And because none of those have led to a charge, a conviction, nothing criminal, the community is not aware that there is a risk at all. And while there are professionals involved who will say there is a risk to the community, they can't say that publicly, which means as the parent, I am the only one who can warn anyone of the risk. But it's also my job to protect my child and their right to any privacy, which feels like an impossible balance. And I don't know what the balance is. How do you carry the constant weight of feeling like you need to protect other people while also needing to protect your child? There doesn't feel like a right way to do that.
Now, what in the
And
world
no
would
one
you do
else seems
about
to have
that?
an
That
answer
is a
for that.
complete no-win situation. I would not want
And
that to be me.
I don't know how to do it.
My mom
Incest taboo family.
is my baby brother's aunt. Figure that out.
So your mom is your baby brother's aunt, meaning your mom and her daddy had a baby together.
And it is my daddy is also my brother and my ex-uncle.
Yeah, okay. So that means her mom had sex with her father, like her mom's dad, and then they had a son. And then she married the son that she had with her father. Bruh. I wouldn't share that. I wouldn't tell the world that. What?
For the ones that's new here, I found out Kenny family is into that incest stuff last year. I did not know that was happening. Like I said before, they look different. They talk different. But we have all seen some funny looking individuals in our lifetime. So please do not act like fugly people just don't exist. Yes, I knew they had some disabilities and some challenges. Like I knew all of that. That was the obvious. But I was always told not to talk about or treat somebody differently because of how they look. To me, Kenny was not the best thing looking. But he started off treating me nice. So it really wasn't about his looks. It was about how he was treating me at first. And then he started to mistreat me. You know, that's a part of the grooming process. So at first I was getting treated real nice. You know, he was very sweet. And then he was very, very, very negative and nasty towards me. And then it's like a shift change. He would just change. So that's how, like I said, it was easy for him to fuck up my head, because one day you was nice, the next 5 seconds you were mean. It was confusing. Stockholm Syndrome is like that. But back to it. I found out through some family members, the ones that did not know what Kenny was locked up for. They had saw my story. I started to get bigger and bigger on TikTok. Excuse my kids. But I started to get bigger and bigger on TikTok. And they was like, wow, I had no clue that this was going on. I don't talk to the family members, but I want to let you know that this has been happening in the family for years. You know, actually, it's incest in the family. This happened to this person. This happened to this person. This happened to his mama. This happened to him. This happened to the brothers. They did this to this person. That's how I know everything that I know. Now, when you first meet somebody or meet a family, they're not going to say, hi, I'm Linda McQueen, you know, or hi, I'm Kenny Carter. We have incest in our family. You know, we are all having sexual intercourse with each other. My uncle is really my daddy, or this is, you know, like, they're not going to do that. I don't know anybody else that, you know, that does that shit. I've only saw the show of the White family. You know, what is it? The Whittakers or whoever. That. Yeah. So to answer your question, I know this is 3 minutes, but no, I did not know. I found this out last year. And I mean, it makes sense.
Do y'all know what season it is? Pisces season. My birthday in 4 days, and I will be marching on the 5th. But that's not why we're here. I might tell you a joke, but I never tell you a lie. I don't even know where to start. Let me figure it out. Okay, so imagine you at work minding your business, doing what your company pays you to do, okay? You're working. You get a text message from somebody clearly playing on your phone. They're saying, hey, is this such and such? You're like, who this is? So they ask again, well, is this such and such? Now, because you know bill collectors be sending text messages too, you like, I will not confirm or deny. Who are you? So they follow up with, is this such and such who live at such and such and work at such and such? And the such and such was all your information. So you like, okay, you have 3.5 seconds to talk before I call the police, before I call the CIA. You better start talking. So that's when they say, well, I'm gonna assume that this is you. My name is Mark, and I really need to meet with you. So you was like, well, I don't know no Marks. What you need to meet with me for? What's going on? So Mark says, well, I'm in town for a summer internship, and while I'm here, like, I really need to meet with you. So you're like, baby, I'm 36 years old. I'm not looking for no internship. I have a career. What we talking about? So he says, no, I'm the one in school. I'm here for my summer internship, but like, I really, really need to meet with you. So in the meantime, in between time, you're texting your friend that's the FBI agent, that's not an FBI agent, that is an FBI agent, that's not an FBI agent. Like, hey, figure out who this is playing on my phone. So she tells you, say less. So you tell Mark, okay, well, I'll meet you at the police department. So he says, are you serious? So you say, yeah, they have a little pavilion area where like people do custody exchanges and stuff. That's the perfect place because it don't close till 10 p.m. So he's like, oh, well, you know, okay, I'm not trying to harm you or anything, so that's fine. We can meet there. What time? So you say 6 o'clock. So he said, okay, see you there. This is what I'll be wearing. I'll probably be there before you. Now, mind you trying to continue your work shift, but it's very, very hard because you can't stop thinking about who is Mark, what they want with you, like, what is going on? You also text your best friend and you fill her in, not to be confused with the one who's researching a number for you, okay? This particular friend is more like a sister to you. And so, you know, because she's so supportive, she asks you, hey, do you want me to pull up with you? And you're like, no, because, you know, I don't know who this is or what this about. I feel safe doing it at the pavilion. You know, I have a lot of friends that's in law enforcement. I already hit one of them up. He gonna be on standby, just kind of walking around the pavilion, scoping out the scenery. So So, baby, 5 o'clock couldn't come fast enough. You clocked out, gathered your things, and ran out of there. You had to fight some traffic, but you made it there like 5:55. You park, get out, head in, you make eye contact with your connect at the police department, and he let you know, like, I'm here, I got you, I see him, it's good. And you see Mark sitting at a table. He turns around and he recognizes you. You know, he extends his hand and say, you know, hi, it's nice to finally meet you, I'm Mark. And you look, because you're like, you a child, like, how old are you? So he tells you he just made 18 like a couple of months prior. So you say to him, okay, I'm all confused, like, please start talking. So he tells you that he was adopted, and when he made 18, he started looking for his biological family. He's been able to find out the identity of his dad, but the identity of his mom is still unknown. So you say, so in a matter of like 2.5 months, you've found your family, because you just said you said you just made 18 about, 2.5 months ago. So he slides the card to you, and he was like, well, this is what I'm in school for. This is what my internship is. And this at this big, like, tech firm. And you're well familiar with the tech firm. They do cybersecurity for a lot of big name companies. So you was like, oh, so you pretty much use the tools of your internship. Like, I can have you kicked out. He was like, just hear me out. So you say, keep talking. So he tells you, you're my sister. So you laugh, slide his little internship card back to him, and you're like, but where the camera's at? This got to be an episode of Pranked, because ain't no way. So you say, show me some proof. So he tells you that he doesn't have like actual files. The adoption was a closed adoption, but one of his adoptive aunties was able to link him with somebody who knew the biological father, and the biological father is your daddy as well. So he said, look, I'm not coming to interrupt y'all lives. I'm not coming to disturb y'all peace. He was like, I'm hoping that I could be a part of the family. If not, I just would really like to know where I came from. So, if you could find out who my mom is for me, like, that would be great. Now, mind you, your mama, even though she in her 60s, she still, work. But she travels for a living. Your daddy is a bridge attendant. So, he open and close the bridges for barges and stuff like that. So he kind of like snap you out of your trance, and he was like, so hello, are you going to help me? And so you like, you damn right, I'm going to help you, because we got to get down to the bottom of these. So you tell him to follow you to your mama and daddy house. Luckily, your mama is out of town. You tell him stay in the car while you talk to your daddy. So your daddy starts telling you, I ain't make no outside children. He's lying. Like, I don't know what it is that he's looking for, but, like, it's not here. Like, you are my only biological child. You, and that's it. So, mind you, prior to your daddy bridge tending, your daddy actually used to work for a social service agency, because that's what his degree is in. But, now that he's older and up in age, he didn't want to do that type of work. So, you asked him, well, could it be possible that one of your youths, like, utilize your name or something like that? And he was like, yeah, anything is possible. So, you say, well, I'm about to bring him in so you can meet him, like, just so we could get down to the bottom of it. So you bring Mark in. Your daddy was like, hey, nice to meet you. You not my son. This is my only child. Like, I'm not sure what's going on, blah, blah. So Mark says, well, I know one way we could solve this. We could take a DNA test. You say, sure, you're right. You leave them to talk while you go run get a DNA test from Walgreens. Come back. Y'all do the little swab. Y'all send it off. Now, your daddy made you check that the results was going to be sent by a certified mail. He didn't want the results sent by email, because he was like, nah, somebody could alter that, whatever. I want this sent by a certified mail so that it has to be signed for. So that's the option that you check. You was like, okay, no biggie. In the meantime, you told Mark, hey, look, it's nothing against you, but I'm really not trying to get to know you until I know for sure, like, what's going on. And Mark was like, I respect that. So you had got an email from the company like a few days after that saying, hey, your results should actually be there today. Just so happy your daddy was sending a bridge. You didn't want to miss when that envelope came. So you skirt over there so you could sign for that envelope. And you made it there just in time. So as you're going to open up the envelope, your friend that is the FBI agent, that ain't an FBI agent, that is the FBI agent, that ain't an FBI agent, she starts to call you. And so you like, damn, you got bad timing. So she tells you, man, we got to meet. You kind of knew where the conversation was heading, so you went ahead and ripped the envelope open, And sure enough, your daddy is his daddy. So you drop to your knees and you just start screaming. So your friend is like, stay at your mommy and daddy house, I'm coming. You don't even call Mark yet because you gotta gather yourself. Now your friend stay about 30 minutes away, but she made it there and have to sign. So, she sits down, she consoles you. She's like, I really wanted to be here, like, when you opened that envelope. So you was like, man, look, let's just go ahead on and get it all out the way. What is it that you gotta tell me? So she hands you a file folder with some information on her adoption. And sure enough, your daddy is the daddy. So you continue scanning the document looking for who the mama is. And before you can
Now,
even process
sorry,
any
y'all.
more
I was trying to
information,
find a part two,
the
three,
room
four,
just
five,
starts
six,
spinning,
seven, eight, nine,
followed by
10 to get the rest
darkness.
of this
We
story.
lost our dad 4 years
Scrolled
ago. He
around
did
through her
not think
page.
it was
I
an
could not
affair
find it,
with a 31-year-old, and
but
now I have
I
a
will
2-year-old
link
sister and an 11-year-old
all
sister.
these videos in the
But
description so
a
that
lot
you
of you
guys
know
can keep
me
searching
from the
if you're
series I
interested in
shared about my
finding out
father.
the
Well,
rest
since
of
that
that story,
time, a
because I
year or some
know
change
I
has
really was
passed, and I
interested and wanted
receive
to
a
know.
slew of comments almost under every post and DMs asking me for an update. So here's an update. Last week, I had a milestone birthday, and I wasn't expecting my dad to call me because he hasn't called me in 4 years. He hasn't reached out to me in 4 years. But I'm like, you know what? I'm your eldest child. You'll reach out. Nothing. I got nothing from him. No call, no text, no email, no WhatsApp, nothing. And then his family reached out to me. None of my aunts or my uncles. And, it's one of those things where I think they're all just so, first of all, they're angry at me because I exposed them on online. But I think they're all just living in whatever reality they're living in, and it's easier to ignore the original family and just throw us aside than it is to actually make amends. And I think that's just where we are. I don't talk about my father much anymore because I'm in a place this year where, through a lot of self-reflection, therapy, and working on myself, that I've realized that this relationship has dissolved into something that is more nostalgia and more of a memory for me. I told you guys before that the way I process my dad not being in my life is that it's like a death to me. So in my mind, I have to say that because there's no way in reality that my father, who raised me for 36 years, is just 2 towns over living with a new family. I don't have access to him. I was talking to my mom last week about this, and one of the reasons why this impacted me so much, and this is I'm discovering through therapy and talking to people, is that my father never got to experience this version of me as an adult. I wasn't an artist before COVID. I've always been a songwriter. I've been writing music for 15 years, but my life changed drastically in 2021. And in 2021 is when this whole thing happened. So my dad never got to experience me on tour, me performing, brand deals, campaigns, the Grammys, nominated for awards, any of the things that a parent would be proud for, or a child would want to share with their parent. I wasn't able to pick up the phone and tell him about it. It's just been me and my mom, which is fine, and that's just my reality now. But it's one of those things where you think back, like, why did this thing impact me so much? And that's the reason. And I just want to say, like, for my men, especially Black men, we have a lot of unlearning and a lot of unpacking to do as to what we were taught a real man is. We're taught a man is supposed to bottle up their emotions, and nothing about a man really matters. Our emotions matter last. Our desires matter last. Our happiness matters last. And I think that's just bullshit. And I think I'm looking at my 6-year-old father throw his family away. And the first thing he said to me was, you don't care about me. She doesn't care about me. You guys don't care about what I like. You guys don't care about what I have going on. And I'm like, wow, okay. So this 31-year-old Colombian girl probably did everything he wanted, probably did everything he liked, probably made him feel like he was on top of the world because he sacrificed himself for 40 years to take care of us. And he had this mentality that no matter what he's going through, he can't share it. And I think, the millennial generation and younger, we are caring more and more about what it means to be mentally sound, spiritually sound, and physically sound, and how those things are symbiotic, and how if one of those are off, we can't actually navigate the world and navigate our household and lead in the way that we need to. And I think the biggest takeaway I had from this debacle with my father is that my mental health journey has been exceedingly and abundantly progressively better. I didn't really think about these things prior to my parents separating, but when my parents separated, I, in many ways, became the head of the family, and I had to grow up fast. I was already grown, but I had to grow up here very, 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 very fast. I still haven't spoken to my father. It's been 4 years. There's now 2 kids. One is 2, one is 11. I don't even know what their names are. I mean, I know what they look like because my trifling aunt posted them. But yeah, that's my update, man. My mom is very happy. My mom is doing well. She's working. She just started a brand new job. She has taken on an interest for art. She's traveling. She's finding her new norm. You know, me and her spoke, like I said, my birthday was last week. We spoke at length. And she was like, you know, I don't even think of him in my life in that capacity anymore. I just want to move forward. And she was stuck in this world before where she, you know, wanted him back because my parents have been together since they were 17 and 16. It's a long time. So on this journey in life right now, I'm just trying to be the best version of myself I can be for my future partner, my future family. And we're trying to cohesively keep our family together. We're taking our mom, she's turning 60 this year. So we're taking her on a pretty big trip this summer. And we vowed, me and my brothers, to just take quarterly trips to keep us all together. My brother lives in Arizona, so I'm going to fly there monthly to see my niece. You know, out of all tragedies come the beauty on the other side, which is that my family now is stronger than we've ever been. We're able to have open dialogue and conversations about a lot of things, which a lot of Black families don't do. And this just exposed the need for us to communicate and the need for us to take care of here. So fellas, you know, mental health is very real. We are the #1 committers of suicide for a reason. Don't think that you don't matter. Don't think that your emotions and feelings don't matter. And don't think that your desires don't matter to put everyone else forward. Much love. Thank you guys for caring. And hopefully this is the last update of my dad, but maybe not. You never know. My family, they're fucking crazy and something's always happening. But as of now, they're not in my life in any capacity, and we're just working on what our new normal looks like. Much love.
Story time on all the family secrets that came out the closet after I told my SA story. Cha. So as I already posted, the SOB who touched me and his SOB wife who did nothing after I told her, okay, this is about them. Sidebar, before it gets started, please follow my Bookie, because if it wasn't for her, I would not be sharing this story, honey. So that SOB touched 2 of his daughters, allegedly. And also, once upon a time, him and his wife were fostering children. He touched all the foster kids and they lost their license, allegedly. He has a tax business, right? But in my hometown, word on the street is don't let him touch your taxes because he go fuck your taxes up and you go owe a lot of money to the IRS. So he's a scammer, allegedly. They had a church back in the day, and guess what? He touched most of the girls in the church, allegedly. And also too, when I came out with my post on Facebook about him SAing me, there were people back, you know, that were teenagers back in the 90s that were telling me about how he touched them. Those women are old enough to be my mama, child. Honey, there's so much more. Like and follow and comment for part 2.
Yeah, so the last situation I discussed how is that my uncle, who was in his 30s at the time, had a grateful, intimate, and romantic relationship with my cousin, who was in 8th grade. And a key point I want to add is that my cousin looks exactly like my aunt. God rest her soul, she passed away. But I felt like my cousin had experienced so much trauma, and we weren't really there for her, because I could say, like, at that time I was like in 5th grade, 6th grade, and again, like, a lot of stuff is not discussed in like Jamaican household, because it's just like we're supposed to be Christian, so we don't talk about like anything like, you know, rated R or anything. So for a long time I blamed my cousin, like, how could you rule in my aunt's life? Like, my aunt blamed my cousin, and mind you, my aunt is an educated Black woman. She was a nurse at the time. She blamed my cousin too. Like, we all blame my cousin. Like, when I'm telling you, it wasn't until I went to college and I'm like, wait a minute, how did we blame my cousin? Basically, everybody was saying that she was fast and she did too much and she exposed herself. I'm like, how did he not go to jail? But we blamed my cousin for that. And again, that situation was just pushed under the rug. Me sleeping on the floor in my grandma's house when there's 2 rooms available with bed, while my grandma was renting it out. My grandma was renting an apartment, you know, because it was like a 2-story, like a upstairs, downstairs. Again, like, the girl who lived downstairs, she can verify this, because, you know, she gave me a job at McDonald's. She was a manager at McDonald's, and I remember I used to cry to them, like, because I'm going to church every Saturday, and I feel like what my grandma's doing is so cruel. I'm like, I'm depressed. Like, I'm thinking about myself, because I'm like, oh my God, like, I can't believe this. And so it's just like, so many things like I didn't realize. And like one thing I can say is like my grandpa through all of this was never like abusive. Like he remained very neutral, impartial. But I was having a conversation with my sister, and I'm like, you know what? Despite my grandpa being neutral and he didn't like explicitly abuse us, I wish he was more outspoken. But it's like you can't call certain things out in the Black household. Like you really can't. Like, 'cause it's just like the moment you call it out, you want to call CPS, you got to stay there. You live in a foster home or whatever the case may be. You don't tell people at church what we're going through, because like, how can you? Like, we need to pretend like we're Christian and everything. And I was also saying, like, you know, like the church we grew up in, like it was so judgmental. Like I remember, you know, not being able to wear pants in church and everything. And I'm telling my sister how there's a deacon at the church who was so judgmental. Like he used to have the longest prayer, you know. Whenever he preached, it was also always so boring because it was so long. It was so dense with studying. And like recently, like I would say like maybe a year ago, like literally he got busted for I would say like raping my cousin, and he was a deacon. Like, you know, if you asked me like 5 years ago, did I think he would be in heaven? I'm like, yes. Like he prayed the longest, he knows scriptures, like. And it's just like, it just goes to show. And again, like my grandma didn't even go to the authority with that situation. Like she was trying to just push it under the rug. It took my cousin to basically broke the silence. So again, it's just like in Black households, like it's so taboo to say certain things. Like, again, I don't want to make a general statement because not every Black household, they don't communicate this. But again, I grew up in an uneducated Seventh-day Adventist strict household. So a lot of the trauma that we face, you couldn't talk about it because it didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was recalling a memory, like back when I was in 8th grade. As I said, my uncle struggled with addiction and going in and out of jail. And he was actively in addiction. And when my uncle was actively in addiction, I don't know if anybody struggled with the needle. A classic sign is that they always think like, they always have schizophrenia. So every time my uncle would pick up the needle, he would completely lose himself. And mind you, my uncle was extremely smart. And so one day I remember being at home, and it's like my uncle was facing active addiction, and like he was threatening to hit me. Like we were having a conversation and his whole persona switched. Like he was threatening to hit me. And I remember like trying to call my grandma. I had to call my neighbor, Sister Benoit, I remember. And I had to lock myself in the room and push the dresser by the room door, because this is a grown man who's under the influence, who is like saying he's going to attack me just because he's not in his right mind. And again, even then when I told my grandma about it, it was like, oh, we got to push it under the rug. Like, you know, that's your uncle. Like, don't worry about it. I'm going to pray for him. Like, let's get up. Let's do devotion at 5 a.m. So like, I just want to say like, my relationship growing up with God has been extremely tainted. Like when I was actually homeless, and then I went to the church and I confided in the church about being homeless and how I was hopeless and like depressed. Like a church family took me in, but like, you know, people take you in just to like, you know, say that they're Christian. But I was in the house, but I never felt a part of the household. Like, mind you, like I was so grateful for them helping me, because again, I was in my grandma's house, like wanting to myself. And so I was so like grateful for them helping me. But as I was there, it was like I wasn't able to do anything. I could only talk to my friends in school. I can't go anywhere. I can only go to work and school. And if I hung out with anybody, it had to be people from the church. So I was extremely sheltered. And I always tell some people, like, I think I struggle with social cues, because like growing up, we were extremely sheltered. Like I couldn't ask my grandma or my legal guardian to go anywhere the day off. You know, like young people, we make plans the day off. Like I had to tell them in advance. And like, so essentially I went to the church to tell the church I was suffering. These two people helped me, but then they also threw me out, right? And they threw me out because I used to struggle with making my bed. I'm not gonna be honest with you. Like, you know, I thought a hot girl in high school, so I used to wake up at 5 a.m., do my makeup, and then I would do my makeup. And at that time, 2016, you gotta have the beat, you gotta have the highlighter, like eyebrow, sharp, everything is good. And so because of that, my bus came really early because I had a bus. So a lot of the time, I didn't have time to make my bed, so I would leave my bed. So I remember this day, like I had lost a lot of weight, and I saw myself slowly gaining weight back. So I literally texted group chat with my legal guardians in it because they went to court to get legal guardianship of me, right? So I remember texting the group chat hey, can I go to the gym? And they're like, no, you can't go to the gym because your bed wasn't made this morning. So I was like, how did you know the bed wasn't made? And he was like, if you were in my face, I don't know what I would do right now. And at that time, they had me in therapy because I was a part of the court process, because I was like literally traumatized. And so that same day, we had a therapy session. And so, like, I told the therapist about the situation. And I'm like, I don't understand why they didn't want me to go to the gym because I didn't make my bed. Like, I feel like that's such an unfair punishment. But again, so I told them about the situation, but like they told the therapist about the situation, but they didn't give the therapist the full picture. But I gave the therapist the full picture. I showed a text message. But to be honest, they didn't like this therapist because, again, they were Seventh-day Adventists, and the therapist wasn't religious. But half the time, the therapist would like agree with me because he was like, "Oh, Lakeisha's a young woman; she have good grades." And mind you, when I was in high school, I had high honor rolls. I couldn't even bring friends to my house. She told me if I wanted to hang out with my friends, I can only invite them to church, right? So it was like I was living in the house, but it was like I wasn't really welcome to be there. You know what I mean? So I remember telling, the therapist, whatever the case may be, that I wanted to go to the gym. And so I remember another time, like I asked to go to the gym, and they told me no. But again, I worked at a McDonald's, and in Long Island, it's like you need transportation for everything. But when you're in New York City, or now I'm currently living in Albany, so the bus system is more frequent. So, but in Long Island, because of everything is far away and you need a car, like the bus system was like every hour. So if I needed to go to the work for like 12 o'clock, I had to take the 10 o'clock bus, because if I waited until the bus came at 11, I would be late to work. So essentially, I used to work at 5 p.m. to like 11 p.m. after I finished my school. Like after I got out of school, I used to work at McDonald's like part-time. So I asked to go to work. I asked to go to the gym, and they said no to going to the gym, right? But in my head, I'm like, I have to wait anyways, right? At my job. And at the time in Long Island, where I was, because I was in Brookhaven, so the McDonald's was essentially in like a plaza. So the McDonald's where I worked at, and also a gym. It's
Goodness
called Gold's
gracious,
Gym.
y'all.
I'm not sure if it's
I
still
hope you
there.
enjoyed this as much as I did.
So
People and their family secrets are crazy. Can't wait to do another one on this. So until the next time, guys, comment, like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you on the other side.